It's a Friday, and we're talking football non-stop. All football, all the time. This is another edition of Football Friday with Hans Olsen and Scotty G. Presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5 KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hans, you and I live a blessed life. Life is good.
Yeah.
We have no complaints whatsoever. We have good jobs. We have good families. I don't get jealous very often, but every time this guy hops on the air with us, I get jealous because this dude has the pipes of God.
Yeah, he does.
It is Mark Johnson. He is the voice of the Colorado Buffaloes, kind enough to join us. Mark, how you doing?
Hey, Mark.
Gentlemen, good to be on with you again.
Oh, it's so good to be on with you and have a chance to catch up with this Colorado team. I will tell you that my co-host and I, Greg Rebell, we jump in the car often after we're done calling the BYU game, and he loves to throw on Mark Johnson. We love to listen to your calls, man. You do an amazing job. How many years you been doing this now for Colorado?
This is I was 2 years at Syracuse, and I came out here then. This is my 21st season here at CU.
Wow. Well,
that means I'm getting old, fellas.
And that means you've seen some things.
Mark, there was so many, I don't know. I feel like a lot of us owe Coach Prime an apology because after last year and all the circus and the drama that came along with him and came along with when he was establishing that program, we kind of thought it was all hat, no horse. And yet now this is a team that is playing good football. They're right there with BYU for the Big 12 championship. What do you attribute this turnaround to from last year to this year?
Well, it's interesting you say that. Yesterday on Prime Show, as we were taping that, we kind of got talking about his different approach. And I'll say this. When he first got here, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know anything about Prime other than, what we've seen over the years, being Prime Time and all the things that he'd done. And so I looked at this and I thought, man, I don't know how this is going to work because it's very unique how he approaches this thing. His philosophy on recruiting, how he puts a team together in this new world of college athletics. And so, believe me, I got a little Missourian in me, man. I was just like, okay, you got to show me. I want to see it now. And so last year they go 4-8. I thought, well, they were better, but can you really duplicate that? When you've been around it and as close as I have been these two seasons now, you kind of see the method to the madness, if you will, what he's doing internally. And I think the thing that gets distracted or distracts a lot of people, I should say, is it's the public aspect. It's the promotion. It's the social media stuff. It's the bravado and all the things that we know about Deion Sanders over the years takes away from the fact that internally this is a real football team, and they're coaching real football. And you've got great coordinators and Robert Livingston and Pat Shermer who are doing a heck of a job. And, we know about Shedeur and we know about Travis, but I don't think the average person understands what a football mentality there is inside this program. And so this new approach that he's got moving forward in terms of how he builds a team and this modern-day college athletics in which we're facing right now is really been pretty interesting to watch for, almost 2 full seasons.
Well, that's definitely grabbed the attention of the country for the last couple of years, and now they're putting the wins together to really prove it. And you got 2 guys, it feels like they're battling for Heisman talk, and Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. How are they managing that between those 2 superstars? Because I did see the Heisman push they put together for Travis Hunter, but I got to imagine Shedeur wants some of that attention.
Well, I think so, but a couple of weeks ago, somebody asked, after Travis did Travis kind of things in a ball game and in a postgame, they asked Shedeur Sanders about it. And I mean, he didn't even hesitate. He goes, Shedeur, he said, Travis is the one that deserves this thing. Now, for my money, and I see him game in and game out, I think I can say objectively, I think Shedeur Sanders is the best college quarterback in America. And I know your listeners probably go, well, of course, you call the games. But when I watch him game in and game out, and I sit next to a guy that's seen a lot of football and coaches at a very high level in Gary Barnett, he seems to think the same thing. But when you really boil it down, we've seen great quarterback play. We've never seen a Travis Hunter before, and what he does every single game. It is spectacular. The fact that he's in the running for the Thorpe Award, he's in the running for the Bolitnikoff Award and every other award that they've got out there, but he's as good as anybody is in the secondary, he's as good as anybody is as a wide receiver in the country. What he's doing is so unique, and so when Shedeur said that, without hesitation, that Travis Hunter should get the Heisman Trophy this season. I thought that spoke volumes about Shedeur Sanders. Listen, he's going to get his, make no mistake about it. But when it comes to that Heisman, I think everyone in Boulder is in lockstep saying that Travis Hunter should be the guy.
Shedeur took a lot of sacks last year. I know there were questions about the offensive line, but some of it was on him where he'd sit on that ball a little too long. Do you feel like he's progressed in that regard?
I think he has. Now, on occasion, he's had an issue with that. In fact, here a couple of weeks ago, Brian was talking about the sacks that Shedeur took, and he said, listen, the bulk of them were on my quarterback today. And so he's always very honest about what his son does, but I do think he's made some steps ahead in that regard. Now, I will say this for him last year. That offensive line was not very good. I mean, 56 sacks given up in the season. I think 52 were on Shedeur by the time it was all said and done. And I think at times Shedeur was thinking, I have to make a play. And so he was extending things beyond maybe where he should have. This year, I think there's a little bit more trust in what that offensive front is doing. They're protecting a little bit better. Now, early on, they gave up some pretty big sack numbers early on, but they certainly have improved here the last 2 or 3 weeks. And so I think he's feeling more comfortable realizing, okay, I got to get rid of the ball, live to play another down, and that kind of thing. And he's not holding it nearly as long as he did a year ago. And so I do think there's been, for a variety of reasons, there's been improvement made in that category.
What have game day environments been like in Boulder this season, Mark?
Well, as stupid as it was last year, and I'm not sure last year I left the season thinking it could possibly be like that, because you guys remember the way it started. Starting out with a phenomenal streak, and game day and Big Noon were there. It seemed like every week, and 60 Minutes and Time Magazine, and all that stuff has kind of continued. Saturday's game's a sellout, so once again, so that streak continues, and it's everything's been elevated. I mean, no matter what Prime touches, the Midas touch he seems to have, and the marketing mentality that he has. It's really amazing to watch, guys, and sit and kind of watch him day in and day out and how he does things, because, in my role, just kind of being by association close to him with the show we do, for example. I mean, I got a text a while back, and something he said on the show went viral, so I just happened to be sitting next to him when we were on TMZ, and I got that text, and I went, what in the hell did I just say? That made me on the cover of TMZ, but it's because of what he does. Everything when he gets up in the morning and makes eggs, it becomes front page news. I mean, it really is an interesting phenomenon when you're dealing with this iconic figure, because everything he does is big. And so the crowds have followed, the coverage has followed, the media attention has followed, and it hasn't really slowed down this season, especially now that they're sitting at 7-2.
Well, the interesting thing is, does it take some of the attention and maybe some of the pressure off the players because so much of it is on Prime, or does it put more on these players and them individually? Because part of me could see it going both ways. I think somehow, when it becomes about Prime, a player, maybe the pressure's not on them as much, and the spotlight's not on them, and allows them to play a little looser than maybe they would otherwise.
Well, strangely enough, I think the answer is yes on both sides. I think there are times when, just because of who he is, he just garners so much attention that sometimes it kind of leaves the team in the background. But then when you've got Shedeur and Shiloh and Travis and Jordan Seaton, who was the number one tackle in America coming out of high school last year, those guys are becoming, they become brands of their own. And so it's I'm telling you, man, I still don't have my head around exactly how this all works. And I said to him one day, we're sitting there during a commercial break, and I said, Coach, I don't, how do you do it? I mean, we're around him, and because the documentary is being filmed, so every time you're around him, there's cameras and microphones, and he's wired up all the time. And I said, don't you get worn out by that? I mean, I work in the business, and this time of year, we're all jumping from football to basketball and shows or the different sports. And I said, I get worn out by it. And, it's around 25% of the time that I'm working we're actually on. You're on all the time. And he goes, that's what I've always done. He said, that's what I've always been. So that's kind of his reality. I'm not sure I could handle that kind of thing, but it's unbelievable. And like I said, the players are becoming brands of their own because of the attention that he garners, and that they grow within their kind of brand development. And he really emphasizes that within the program, that he wants them to become brands. And so everywhere. But I do think there are times where he kind of understands, I need to kind of take the heat off these guys. So he'll do something or say something, or have some clip that goes out there through his various social media channels, and it all of a sudden blows up, and everyone pays attention to him for a short period of time.
So, Mark, this morning I was putting together my numbers for the BYU-Kansas game that we're going to be calling this weekend, and and I always put together my Utah and their opponent numbers. And so I've got BYU sacks at 13, 107th in the country. I found Kansas with 22 sacks. I was like, man, that's really good. Utah's only at 16 sacks, number 86 in the country. I'm surprised by that. They're always high up in sacks. And then I come across Colorado at number 6 in the country with 29 sacks at 3.2 per game. Where is that production? Is that scheme? Is that individual? And how are they getting that type of pressure?
Yeah, this is totally different, by the way, than a year ago, because a year ago the Buffaloes were not putting pressure on opposing quarterbacks. But what Robert Livingston has done, I think his system, number one, the first-year defensive coordinator, they did a good job bringing in some transfers. They've really solidified that offensive front. And then you look at the guys who are coaching that front, Warren Sapp being one of them. And so I think it's kind of a package situation here. But they have really started generating pressure. So number one of the Pac-12, or have been recently through the last few weeks in terms of sacks totals. They've always been 1 or 2 in tackles for a loss. That group has really come along. And I think when you look at the defensive improvement this season from what they did or didn't do a year ago, I think the number one thing I look at is what they've done up front with that defensive line. And they've had a couple of injuries there in recent weeks. I think Shane Cokes is going to be back this week. We'll see about that. But, boy, they've done a good job of generating pressure. It's been a combination of scheme and talent that they've improved upon from a year ago.
So just kind of, as we let you go here, just kind of give us your broad perspective of how this game looks coming up tomorrow.
Well, I was just on a Big 12 pick'em show here yesterday, and I said I don't know what Kyle Whittingham has done because the injury situation with Utah, whatever he did to cause that, he needs to apologize to somebody because it's been crazy what they've gone through, especially on the offensive side, obviously at the quarterback position. But I just think that Colorado is so explosive on offense, and Shedeur is so good, and they're running the ball. I'm not going to say significantly better because there was a point in time where the running game was non-existent, but they've come around to at least where a defense has to pay attention to it. So when they play action, the linebackers have got to pause a moment just to make sure. And so they've done enough to take some pressure off Shedeur from a passing standpoint and allowing other opposing teams to put pressure on him. That's greatly improved their offense. And so they're so explosive there. And I've got great respect for what Utah does defensively, and their numbers are outstanding. But I think Colorado, I saw a number today that the Buffs are scoring about 7 points on average over what the average opponent scoring is for opposing defenses. And that they're about at that same number the other direction as well. And so I think Colorado should be able to move the ball with all the weapons they've got. And then Colorado's improved defense against that, that injury-plagued offense for Utah. I give the Buffs the advantage there. And so I think most on both sides of the ball, I give Colorado an advantage, but again, with that full respect for what Kyle's done, because I think he's one heck of a football coach. But I think it could be an interesting game, but I'll give the nudge to the Buffs in this one.
We certainly appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us, and look forward to catching up with you again here soon.
Appreciate you, Mark.
I look forward to it, guys. You guys take care. Bye.
There he is. Play-by-play voice of the Colorado Buffaloes, and a voice that we all wish we had.